you talked about early on, is making things cohesive, but still experimenting. When I think of you and cohesion, I think of what you're wearing. I think of these very specific blue, red, yellow, and green colors, and it's a very specific Brinkman palette, to the point where other artists create like the democracy that I always mispronounce, but like it has a Brinkman palette. Or like there's people who take the palette and then attribute it to their art. How did you come up with this palette, and how has it evolved? Because I feel like since I've known you since Nimbuds, basically, that palette is just like you.
So there is a logic behind it. And what it is like before NFTs, I was doing a lot of these kind of pop culture gallery shows out in LA. There's like Gallery 1988 and there's like Bottleneck in New York. And you do these kind of like Rick and Morty art shows or, you know, Monty Python art shows. And you make these like kind of high-end fan art pieces. When I joined the space, I was like, I don't want to bring that into the space because one, there's probably legal issues with selling this stuff. And two, it's not my idea. I'm like just making work based on other people's ideas. So I wanted to start kind of fresh with the NFT space and push animation and color because, you know, I looked at Super Rare at the time and it was Coldy, it was a lot of money, it was X-Copy, and they were all kind of these like earthy, glitchy, dark things. Yeah. The only person that was probably doing it around that time was probably Joy. That was doing like kind of bright, colorful stuff. But he was like, I wasn't aware of his stuff because he was not on Super Rare at the time. He was off doing his own contract stuff because he's like super brilliant. But I was like, oh, well, everyone's kind of doing this. I think I can like, I don't see anybody doing traditional animation stuff. I don't see anybody really doing like pop, colorful stuff. Maybe I could play in that world. And so my first piece was called Explode. And it was these kind of clouds exploding with these colors. And it was, you know, back then you could only do animated GIFs, which was like a fun challenge of the space. But so I started with that. And then I kind of tried a few things to see what I kind of enjoyed. And I came back to those colors because I figured, you know, when you're in the traditional world, there's this expectation that when you do a show that you create a piece of art that looks just like what you're known for. And everybody wants you to make like repetitions on whatever's your most successful thing. And I've always found that to be like very creatively stunting. And so I was like, well, if I use these colors, I can then do a 3D piece. I can then do a generative piece. I can then do, you know, a 2D animated piece. And they don't have to look at all the same stylistically, but if they have those colors, it brings it all together. And so I use the colors as well as these symbols that you see in the shirt, which is like clouds, wires, diamonds, you know, things that I kind of made symbols of things in the space. So it was like the diamond is like, you know, how we value things, and the wires are how we're connected to each other. And it was like, I could tell these, like, I could create these little dioramas that told diary stories of how I felt about the space and kind of build up the symbols slowly and create kind of a language around my art. And so that was kind of the idea around it. And now it's like, it's kind of funny because I was like, oh, I'll do colors. That way I don't have to do the same style over and over. And now it's like, the colors are my style.
The colors are